Hello and welcome to another of my looks at the EICMA show in Milan, what is arguably the most important motorcycle exhibition of the year. 2022 sees the show gain some momentum compared to its first post-pandemic revival last year, though it still lacks a presence from some of the major manufacturers, but hopefully they will bite the bullet and make an appearance in 2023. If you were new to this whole motorcycling thing and you pitched up at EICMA very much as a newbie, trying to get a feel for the industry, you would soon be left in no doubt that the major player in the world of two wheels is Honda. Its stand at EICMA is quite simply massive, huge, pretty fancy too in terms of the audio visual stuff that's going on as well. And thankfully they had something new to show us in the shape of the CB750 Hornet that was unveiled at the Intermot show in Germany a couple of weeks ago. And now here in Milan, they showed us the new Transalp that is based on the same engine, but housed in a slightly different package. We featured the Hornet in one of our recent news segments, but it's worth repeating that this is a sporty naked bike that uses an all-new 755cc parallel twin with a 270-degree firing order that gives it a more characterful sound and feel than parallel twin-cylinder bikes of yesteryear. The engine is good for just over 90 horsepower and there's 75 Newton meters, numbers that give it a leg up over the Suzuki GSX 8S that also launched at Milan and is aiming at enticing money from exactly the same sort of customers. Looked at in a profile layout, both bikes are remarkably similar with an aggressive cut to their jibs, so to speak. But although the Hornet is a fine-looking motorcycle, I think the stacked headlights of the GSX just give it the edge. Interestingly, both manufacturers have opted for quite muted single colour schemes rather than the garish, decal-laden outfits of a few years ago. A good move as far as I'm concerned. They look classy, and if you want to dress them up with a load of stickers, then there's nothing stopping you doing that. There'll undoubtedly be plenty of aftermarket kits to help you do exactly that. The Hornet suspension comes from Showa with an inverted fork with separate function big piston fork legs and a 5-way preload adjustable rear shock. The curb weight is quoted at what is an impressive 190 kilos, and even though it's using steel for its frame, it weighs in at just over 10 kilograms less than Suzuki's naked GSX 8, which is another good sign for the Honda. Similarly to its Suzuki competition, it also has a 5-inch TFT screen, although it has smartphone connectivity and Honda's voice activation for Android phones, which leaves the Suzuki in its technological dust in that respect. The Hornet can be spec'd with an optional sport pack that will give you the 2-way quick shifter, something that is standard with the Suzuki, and it adds a little fly screen, a rear seat cowl and different foot pegs. There's also a style pack that adds some fancy bits like bar end weights, a clamp for the handlebar and some wheel tape, and then finally you have the touring pack that brings panniers, a seat bag and tank bag. The base price of the Hornet is super competitive, barely 4,000 Rand or say about 200 euros or so more than Yamaha's MT-07, which is very impressive. So at 7,800 euros or around 140,000 Rand, it is a proper bargain. Having debuted the Hornet at Intermot, we were all obviously expecting there to be another major reveal at EICMA, and the Big H didn't disappoint us, unveiling the reborn Transalp, now a 750, obviously featuring the same parallel twin that we just witnessed arriving in the Hornet. The XL 750 Transalp, to give it its full title, trades on the Transalp name, a name that first appeared all the way back in 1986 with a 50 horsepower Transalp 600, and now 25 years later it has grown to 755cc and features almost double that amount of power. Although the power is the same as that of the Hornet, the ride-by-wire throttle has been altered to better suit long distance and touring riding, it says, by which I presume they mean it isn't quite so aggressive in its responses. There's 4 riding modes: Sport, Standard, Rain and Gravel, and a 5th user-defined mode where you can set many of the presets as you prefer. Each riding mode sets up one of a number of variables, there being 4 levels of engine power, 3 for engine braking, 2 for the ABS and 5 for traction control. There's wheelie control as well, though that tied into the traction control. The ABS can be turned off for the rear wheel, and the traction control can be turned off completely for off-road use. Suspension comes from Showa with separate function fork legs up front and a remote reservoir shock from the same company at the rear. Suspension travel is 200 mils at the front, 190 at the rear, so not quite as much as the new 800 V-Strom, though the curb weight is a fairly impressive 208 kilos. Impressive because the quoted curb weight of the Suzuki is 230 kilos. The wheels are spoked, and at the front we have a 21-inch rim, a must-have if you want to lay claim to any serious ability to hit the trails. Two-pot axially mounted calipers take care of the braking at the front, and they're paired with twin 310mm discs. As with the Hornet, there's a 5-inch colour screen with connectivity and Honda voice recognition trickery if you really feel the need to be hooked up to your phone when you're adventuring, a level of sophistication that is lacking on the new Strom 800, but that'll only bother some potential customers. It's a handsome bike as far as adventure models go, maintaining a family look with the Hornet with the same sort of headlight treatment. If pricing is as competitive as it is for the Hornet, then the Transalp could soon become a major player in the very crowded middleweight adventure segment. These two models were obviously the headline makers on the Honda stand, but to be fair, there was plenty of other stuff going on, including a host of updates and tweaks for Honda's extensive scooter and small bike models that I'm just not going to go into here. One of the more interesting developments I did notice though was the CL500 Scrambler, a fairly attractive, somewhat innocuous yet undoubtedly going to be a bargain kind of street bike with a bit of a cool attitude. It's using the same basic ingredients as the existing and truly ugly Rebel 500, and now gives this otherwise inoffensive package a level of desirability, at least for me, that it has previously been sorely lacking. It has the same 471cc twin-cylinder motor that can be found across many models in the Honda range, and crucially with an output of 46 horsepower, it comes in just under the 47 horsepower limit that so many European countries impose on their newbie motorcycle riders. The main frame is pretty close to what is found on the Rebel, but there's some changes around the rear subframe that is welded, not bolted onto the frame. This sits higher to allow for mounting of the new twin rear shocks, and with larger wheels than the Rebel's 16 inches at both ends. There's now a 19 at the front and a 17-incher at the rear. There's some decent ground clearance. Throw on a high-rise exhaust, a flat seat, some gaiters on the front fork, and you have a Scrambler instead of a bobber. And well done, I say. It now has a level of desirability, at least for most European taste, that was sorely lacking in its former Rebel guise. Right, before we call time on Honda's EICMA exploits, I think I should probably mention the EM1E, the company's first electric model since it announced that it has 10 new electric two-wheelers that it will be launching by 2025. This is a Europe-only model, and the EM bit of its name equates to electric moped, and so you'll see that it's aimed at the younger market, pre-driving license, and it's meant to be for, I suppose, commuting to college or to work, that sort of thing. A single charge will get you 40 kilometers, which may not seem much, but rather than having to wait for a recharge before you can set off again, this model uses swappable battery technology. So you can go to a Honda dispensary type machine and swap for a fully charged unit, or you can take the battery into your home or college or wherever and use the electricity there to charge you up for your return journey. There aren't too many other details yet, even though the EM1E is actually due to go on sale sometime in the first half of next year, I think it is. But it seems like it uses a hub-mounted electric motor on the rear wheel, and there's the usual underseat storage capacity, though not to the usual extent of a step-through scooter, given you've also got that battery pack hiding away under there. It'll need to be cheap, and it will need Honda to build some giant vending machines, that's the word, vending machines, to make swapping empty for full battery packs easy for it to really catch on. But you never know. This might well be the future of green, short-range, inner-city transport. And I think that's going to bring me to the end of my roundup of Honda's exploits at EICMA. I'm going to get busy with writing up some reports on the other brands that I was checking out there, so please join us, have a look on the YouTube channel, and I'll see you when I talk about some of the other major news from the biggest expo of the year.